And I'm very happy to say Jason Donovan joins us in studio. Jason, good morning. How are you today?
Very well.
In Dublin to promote the War of the Worlds show.
That's correct. On the 29th, I believe, at the O2.
This kind of music theatre has been your life now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've sort of found a home in musical theatre. I guess it combines the two things that I do, which is act and sing. I can also sort of quite proudly say I'm not a bad little dancer at the moment either. So
quite a repertoire you bring to the table there.
Yeah, it's the triple threat, as they say in the business.
Yeah.
No, I'm, and this particular, the reason why I'm here is obviously War of the Worlds, which is very exciting. It's a show that I did 18 months ago. They asked me back. Not only did they ask me back, they asked me back to play another part, which is
that's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I did a good job.
Were you promoted or demoted?
I think I don't know. That's an interesting question. They want me back. I think that's a promotion.
Are you on stage longer this time than you were the last time?
It's a different part. I think the timings are, I think it's a little bit less. The Kaiser Chiefs lead singer, a guy called Ricky Wilson, is playing the part that I played last time. I think the idea was to try and create something different with the show, War of the Worlds, which is, that's why,
that's a strange
I've been given a different
for
cast
him, isn't it?
What, Jeff?
Yeah, for the guy from the Kaiser Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting piece of casting, actually. I mean, to explain, War of the Worlds obviously, is Jeff Wayne's musical, and for a long time it had various casts within it, but they've contemporized the music. I think there's an album coming out with Gary Barlow, and of course Liam Neeson is now playing the narrator, and Liam Neeson will be a holograph.
Now this is, I'm very intrigued by this.
On the live shows.
We've just been looking at nude photographs of Liam Neeson in recent papers. At 60.
How do you feel about that?
Uncomfortable.
That you're looking at those photographs?
Yeah, I'm more for Liam than for me.
Do you like to, how do you swing?
Well,
how did you find these photographs?
I'd like to reveal that later on.
Okay. You're wearing pink at the
I'm wearing a pink shirt.
Yeah.
But that could be subterfuge.
Yeah,
we don't know.
You could make the switch.
Well, we have to wait and see, don't we?
This is news talk.
Yeah, it is.
Controversial.
Yeah, so
I could take the interview.
I'm going to keep you guessing.
Okay. Good stuff.
Front and hide my left hand.
Wow. We're going into dangerous territory here.
Yes. No, he's, there's a debate of when you should stop not wearing your clothes in public.
Why is he? He's done this for charity, obviously.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
Well, I can confirm that Liam Neeson will be doing this fully dressed at the O2.
There's a certain relief
for War of the Worlds.
But he's going to be a hologram.
Yeah, well, they've obviously, again, as I said, they're doing the album, and that features Liam as the narrator and Gary Barlow and Ricky Wilson. So I guess, Liam probably doesn't really want to tour the UK and Ireland for 3 or 4 weeks in December. So the hologram was born out of the idea of Richard Burton, and so to try and sort of compromise the actors on stage and this sort of figure that sort of looms in the background, and I guess that's the idea of the narrator.
Right. How do you have to interact with that? Do you have to interact with a hologram?
Yeah, it's very difficult actually, because it's all about timing, and you really have to get, as actors we have rhythms, is what you sort of talk about. Unfortunately, when a person is in perfect time, it's very difficult to get a rhythm going.
Yeah.
But the whole piece, as an orchestral piece, is set to specific bars. So it doesn't just move as a piece of music, it moves like a piece of mechanics.
Right.
So can you understand that? It's a very difficult thing to get in your head. It's like they call it in the music business a click track. There's a click track that goes through the entire sequence of the show. So what I guess the best way to explain it to everyone out there is, if it starts at 7:30 every night, it finishes at 10:15.
That really is
on the dot.
On the dot.
On the dot. Depending on the interval in the middle.
And the hologram always meets its marks.
Always.
Right.
That's never drops a line.
That's very. Doesn't drink afterwards, obviously. The hologram
doesn't drink afterwards.
Rock and roll.
But goes nude in newspapers.
The nude thing. We're trying to draw a veil over, really, to be honest, as best we can,
Yes. What is it with the Irish and getting nude?
What do you mean? What is it with the Irish and getting?
I
What
don't
are you
know.
telling me now?
They just love to get out there and
Has this
have
been
a good
your
time.
experience of the Irish people?
Sometimes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. 20 years ago or now?
Let's move on.
You don't remember 20 years ago. That's good. Just I wanted to ask you various bits and pieces. Obviously, your biography was out, My Story Uncut. There's one line about it that really catches my attention. Stories from the last 20 years. I'll tell you why I ask you this. I once interviewed Gary Lineker in front of a public audience. I thought we did a pretty good interview. And then when the interview finished, he stood up and said, "Wait till I tell you all some stories about Gaza." And he just told about 20 minutes worth of stories about Paul Gascoigne that were spectacular. So are there stories that you tell when it comes to the moment that you say, oh, it was this time?
Well, I mean, one has to respect that you're still only a living, walking human being, and you've got to be careful about stories you do tell. I mean, I think editing is a wonderful sort of process, and writing a book is where do you begin and end. And you have to articulate the stories that people are going to be interested in. I don't have any Gaza stories.
How disappointing.
Fortunately, but I knew where and what the publishers specifically wanted from the book. I guess it's, that's always a sort of tug of war about trying to tell the real person and not just be a kiss and tell book on Kylie or Neighbours or, My Time in the Jungle or, it has to be a balanced account of your life with a sense of credibility to it.
But that was a book and this is live radio, so this is a much more open forum.
Sure.
It's just
what do you want me to say?
What have you got?
Well, not enough that's going to keep your viewers interested in at the tender age of 44. But,
don't blame me for a second.
There's lots of stories out there, but I think it's sort of, I think amongst... I suppose celebrity is like a club, isn't it? And there's conventions within clubs, unwritten rules and laws, and, I think there's lines that one crosses and one doesn't cross.
It's kind of what goes on the road stays on the road.
Yeah, or what goes on the road normally goes on Twitter these days, or Facebook.
Yeah. So. But when you look back on when you write a book of your life, do you look back at it as a charmed life? Would you see the life you've led as being a very charmed life?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a very lucky guy. I landed on my feet straight out of school, and I had a great upbringing, very middle class upbringing in Australia. Okay, my parents were divorced. It's not perfect, but, name any children born out of the sort of 60s and 70s who don't have divorced parents. It's always interesting looking at, parents from that era saying, what was going on in that time?
They were both in the entertainment world, right?
Yeah, which always makes things a little bit difficult. Having said that, my wife, is a stage manager. But, I've made mistakes, and I've had success.
And there were issues with drugs at one point.
Yeah.
But when you look at how young you were a child star from, you never did the total destruction which very often accompanies child stardom, doesn't it?
Well, I wasn't Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite on that sort of level. But I think,
But it was. You were winning a Logie when you were 20.
Yeah.
And you were nearly one of the most famous people in Australia by the age of 20. It must have had pressures with it.
It did have pressures. I think the younger you are, the less you know. So I think you tend to cruise through things a little easier. I find anxiety a bigger part of my life as I get older.
Over
when I get older.
But anxiety over getting older, or anxiety
I just
over
think
life?
It's more. Well, it's you've got 3 kids, and and then people constantly like yourself refer to success at a young age. I think, and then you balance out and think, where is my career going, and trying to find that Camelot sort of existence between your inner and your outer worlds. And I'm quite a sort of spiritual dude.
Yeah.
But I have discovered that success is not necessarily the key to happiness. And it's not just about being a celebrity in life. It's about being a human being and someone who lives and breathes and has family and trying to balance. But my currency is my work. That's my passion. That's what I do. And unfortunately, that has a profile. And unfortunately, that sells newspapers. And unfortunately, people like yourself are interested or not in drugs or in Kylie or go to specific
life
areas.
Story, though,
when there's a lot of else that goes on. There's a lot of what I always say about the press is two things. That they're only interested when you're up and when you're down.
Right.
The middle ground does not sell newspapers.
Very few column inches about the middle ground.
Correct.
It's
and that's
true.
Life.
Yeah.
Life is in the middle.
But isn't that everyone's challenge? Isn't that why? I mean, everybody is trying to balance their own lives, which have highs and lows and middle grounds in them. And they look at celebrities' lives as a reflection of their own lives and the problems they have and how they deal with. This morning we were talking about weight gain. There was a woman on in America. Did you see that at all? Pilloried for being overweight. You think, what would I do in that situation?
It's a funny one, that one. You know, unfortunately, we live in a democracy and the internet is becoming a massive part of our lives. You know, we can buy newspapers. We cannot buy newspapers if we don't. You know, I guess our editors, television programs guilty of sort of, sensationalizing certain things and, I mean, photoshopping stuff at the moment, making people look thinner on a front page. Is that a crime? I don't know. I'm not really a psychologist nor a politician, but it is in life our opportunity to turn the channel if we don't like it. It's like people say, I can't stand reality television. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Don't buy the newspaper if you don't want to read about, that's what sells. That's life.
Then, I mean, because you're aware of the people's, prurient interest in celebrity, but you still went on, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And I'd be one of those people who sit there and go, why does anybody go on this?
Okay. Well, I think this is an interesting discussion. I think for me at that particular point in time, I certainly wasn't getting roles in, Hustle, the TV series, or Spooks, or those sort of things, which is what I wanted to do. I was getting quite a bit of musical theatre stuff. I'd had this reputation about taking drugs. I was slowly moving out of that phase. I'd had the birth of my daughter. I was with my wife, Ange, and I really needed to tell the public that actually, I was back on track. I got offered Big Brother, and I'm a celebrity at that particular point in time in my life. Now, you look at the two on paper, right? Big Brother, January, Channel 4, North London. You look at I'm a Celebrity, Ant and Dec, Queensland, Australia, and it's a no-brainer,
right? Really.
Now, for me, I probably could have stepped away from done neither of those things, but I'm a bit of a, I believe in the moment, and I believe if you feel something's right, just do it. And
right.
I did, and it helped rejuvenate things.
And it does come down to that career decision. You're thinking this is an opportunity to get press and promotion, and people are, as you say, people say, I'm here, I'm Jason Donovan, I'm open for business, I haven't gone away, I'm fine, and you're paying a price because it's not. I wouldn't imagine it's a comfortable thing to do.
Well, I guess it depends on how you react within it. If you know that cameras are on you 24/7, you sort of make sure aware about things you say or you don't say.
God.
Depends on what type of person you are.
It's hard enough having cameras on us for 20 minutes.
Well, it's sort of called being smart.
Yeah, that's
really
very hard.
And
which of us are smart?
Maybe smart and being sort of aware and I guess the difference in my career is I've sort of become a brand rather than a sort of specialist. I guess, that incredible wave of success that I had with Neighbours, and then the singing career, and then sort of Joseph, and that whole thing I became a brand name. It's quite difficult to sort of reinvent
Jasons.
oneself.
There are two Jasons. There's the brand, and there's the father and the husband.
I think there's probably two things. I think that's a professional and a personal.
Yeah.
So, I think that's, don't know whether I'd necessarily see myself as the brand when I go home, but you know what I'm saying to you.
You don't want your wife embedded a brand.
Well, I always say I'm a bit like the cornflakes packet. I'm not the person selling the cornflakes. I am the cornflakes packet. So
That's profound.
Yeah. Is it? I don't know.
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Jason, thanks very much for coming in. We're beaten by the clock. I didn't get to talk to you about. I watched the Who Do You Think You Are your great grandfather, was he? More or less
Cox
opened up Australia to the entire population. Yeah. That's an incredible story. You didn't know that going in?
No, I didn't know that, and I was absolutely, and still are, fascinated by that story. It's a wonderful sort of rites of passage type of
incredible,
great show to be part of.
Yeah, I can imagine. Jason, thank you very much. We look forward to the show. Looking forward to see how you react to a naked Liam Neeson coming towards you in a hologram.
He won't be naked at War of the Worlds, but we'll definitely be here on the 29th and at the O2. So
the O2. Look forward to Jason. Thanks very much.